Welcome back. My name is Bill Maher. I'm a member of the New Horizons Toastmasters group, and it's good to be with you again. I have a very special guest here this evening, also a member of New Horizons, but also someone who is involved in education. You might not know that I am an educator. I teach at a high school in Salem, and I really understand the importance of education in Oregon and in our societies. I am happy to introduce to you today Dr. Adrienne Ochs, a member of the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. She is the G.E.D. Administrator. Adrienne, welcome.
Thank you, Bill.
It's great to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about what you do as a G.E.D. Administrator.
I'd be glad to. As you said, I currently serve as the G.E.D. Administrator for the state of Oregon, and in that role, I am responsible for being the liaison between G.E.D. testing services, that is the owner of the G.E.D. exam, and the G.E.D. test centers and the G.E.D. test prep centers and testing centers around the state. So I make sure that the testing centers are in compliance. If the educators have any questions, I help with them. And in addition to that, I also serve as a professional development consultant for the educators throughout the state. And lastly, I manage a grant, a large grant, about $2 million that the legislature allocated to various GED programs throughout the state. And I get to allocate those funds and see how they're managed and help evaluate those programs.
I want to back up just a little bit because as educators we tend to throw around acronyms a little too freely. So just to make sure that we understand, a GED is a graduate equivalency degree. Is that correct?
In part. It sounds like it's an acronym, but GED doesn't stand for anything. However, when we say GED, we are referring to a high school equivalency credential. Yes.
Is there any other addition to the definition that you would like to give?
It is an equivalent. An equivalent, we can't say it's a diploma, but it has the same merit, the same weight as a high school diploma.
So a word that we might use is a certification.
You could use the word credential.
Credential.
Test credential, yes.
I just learned something new. This is a very specialized job that you have, something that really does focus in on a particular need in Oregon. What kinds of life experiences that you've had so far really help you in doing your job that you're doing now?
I was trained as an educator, and my doctorate is in youth development. And I had a particular focus in resiliency, youth resiliency, and what made some kids make it and other kids not. And when I consider high school dropouts, right, those students that did not complete high school, it's kind of an at-risk population. So my background in education dealing with at-risk youth lends itself to this type of role quite nicely.
Interesting. I'm always interested in learning how people's lives experience and paths lead them to where they are today.
Yes.
How did this position come about? How did you find it? How did you connect with this, and how did it happen?
I've always been one who would look to make a difference wherever I go. And given Oregon's history educationally, the dropout rate, I knew, you're smiling, you also know, that it's that 1 in 4 high school students will not complete high school. And Oregon has the 3rd highest dropout rate in the country. And I looked at my background, and that coupled with knowing that I want to make a difference, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity. When I saw this job come available, I thought, oh, I can take my background, I can make a difference doing what I enjoy and impact education.
And so far, it's working.
It's been fabulous.
Now, you had mentioned a moment ago about the kind of people that you work with. Do you work directly with students, or do you work with people who work with students, or who?
So I am the liaison between the GED testing services and the students. So I don't work with them, but I work with the educators and the testers who work with the students.
Interesting, interesting. I'm still getting used to how all of this works out. I do understand the need to identify and work with at-risk populations. And I do know I've worked in a number of different districts in Oregon and a couple in Southern California. To be able to reach the needs of those students, it's a unique population, and even within the population there's such unique needs. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to figure out how to do that effectively. What kinds of institutions do you work with that provide the GED service?
So the institutions are typically, could be community-based organizations that provide the test prep, could be community colleges that provide the test prep, and we also have some very unique programs around the state that provide proprietary testing preparation services. So very unique, yes, and they really get to their students in a unique way in order to prepare them for the examinations.
The preparation, does it happen what we might say in-house? They have to go to a location and that's where they receive those services, as opposed to online?
Preparation can take place in a number of different ways. So when a student decides that they want to go for that GED test credential, there are a couple things. So the GED test credentials, it comprises 4 tests. Yes, reading and language arts, math, social science, and science, social studies and science. When a student takes all 4 exams, some students think that they're ready. They don't have to prep. They can just go right in and take the test, and they do that. Other students choose to go to a prep center in order to prepare for the exams, and others do self-taught online studying for the test. So the preparation isn't mandatory, and students can test whenever they feel comfortable, whenever they feel ready.
Interesting. Tell us about a success story that you have encountered.
I've encountered many success stories. And for me, when it comes to the GED test credential and the becoming GED test graduates, success happens when a student takes that first step and decides, yes, I want to do this.
Is there a way to determine how a student might come to make that decision?
Yes, in fact, that's some of the data that's collected. So we ask the students, why now? What made you do this? And the students' reasons vary. Some say they're doing it for their mother. Some say they're doing it because they want a better educational opportunity later, so they want to continue on to post-secondary education. Some say they do it because they want a better employment opportunity. Some say they do it because there's shame that they've experienced because they hadn't completed high school. So the reasons vary, but success to me happens when they take the step to make this a reality for them.
I understand that you have also been involved at the other end of the GED process, where the students have successfully completed the GED, and you've been involved in some celebrations, shall we say. What are significant moments from those celebrations that you'd like to share with us?
I think any celebration is a joyous and happy occasion. And when it comes to GED test graduates getting that credential, oh my, I am reminded of a recent graduation that took place in one of our correctional facilities, where GED prep programs are in our Oregon prisons. I've spoken at their graduations before, and to see the family members really rally around and support their graduates and be so happy, and to hear a daughter say, "Daddy got his GED, Daddy got his diploma," and just to see the families and the educators surround the students and be supportive, that to me makes for a wonderful, enriching experience for all.
I can only imagine.
Yes.
I can only imagine. As one who teaches in what people would understand as a typical public high school in Oregon, if you had an opportunity to come to the high school that I teach at and talk with the students. I think freshmen need to hear probably more than any other age, but if you got a chance to talk to high school students, to have them understand what you've learned working with this population, what kinds of things would you want them to know?
Well, Bill, I would tell them that having a high school diploma is very important. It's an important first step. I would share with them what the data says, that when students have their high school diploma, they're more likely to earn tens of thousands more dollars later. They're more likely to have better health outcomes. They're more likely to do better in society. I would also tell them that if they find that the traditional high school setting is not for them, that's okay, because there are alternatives within the state of Oregon. And to not be discouraged, but to also not stop, but to find something that works for them, get that minimum credential, and I would wish them much luck and success in their lives, whatever that means for them.
That is so awesome to hear, because I understand that the traditional public school isn't a fit for everyone. And we do need to find solutions for every child that comes through our educational system. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, because we're both members of Toastmasters.
Yes.
And it has been quite a benefit to me. How has Toastmasters benefited you in your current position?
I would say that Toastmasters has benefited me in many ways. The most important way would be being able to, you're familiar with table topics.
I am.
Yes, yes, yes. And in table topics during each Toastmasters meeting, you're forced to think on your feet and come up with some sort of explanation or a story that you aren't prepared to deliver. And I found that that piece has been most successful for me in my role, the ability to be able to think quickly, find out what's being asked of you, and to be able to deliver something. It's been very helpful in my role.
One last question related to Toastmasters. If you were to share with somebody at your work how Toastmasters has helped you, other than table topics, because you just shared about that, what might you share with them about your experience?
I would let them know that everybody can grow. And when it comes to something that they might be interested in, say for example, leadership, Toastmasters would be a wonderful way for them to gain these leadership skills, and it would be able to help them in their current role at work. Also, I would encourage them to consider joining a Toastmasters group, because it would help them socially. The friendships that I've made have been very strong and meaningful in my life, and that in turn helps me in my role at work. So I would ask them to consider it. They wouldn't be disappointed.
Excellent points. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for doing the work that you do, not only through Toastmasters, but also for our children here in Oregon. It has been a pleasure.
Bill, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us and hearing what we can do to support our children around the state of Oregon. Thank you again. If you are interested in finding out more about Toastmasters, please do a web search for Toastmasters or Toastmasters International. If you are a Toastmaster and happen to be traveling, check out a club where you're going to be for your vacation or your trip. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Welcome back to our show. My name is Charles Shambry, and I'm a host for this segment. If you're looking for a club, I belong to the New Horizons Toastmasters Club in Tualatin, Oregon. We invite you if you're looking for a club. And today we have here Lynne Foster. She's here to share her story, her experience in Toastmasters. Welcome, Lynne. Welcome to our show.
Charles.
Nice to have you
Thank
here.
you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, how's everything going?
Good, very good. You know, it's a brand new year. That's exciting. 2018 is going to be a great one.
Yes, exciting.
Yeah.
So tell us about your experience in Toastmasters, or at least before you tell us that, tell us where you're from and what you do for a living.
I grew up in Marin County, just outside of San Francisco, and I am currently, I'm actually the executive assistant and residency coordinator for Virginia Garcia Memorial Health Center here in Hillsboro, Oregon, which is a large nonprofit healthcare. And I grew up, I actually lived in, so I grew up in California, moved to New York when I was 20 to become an actor, and then I moved to Los Angeles and New York, and then the UK, and then Los Angeles and New York, and then the UK, and now Portland.
Wow.
I know it.
I need to keep
I know
notes
it.
down.
Peripatetic. I'm very peripatetic on that. Yes,
That's
I'm
great. So
very
you've been
happy
around-
to be in Portland. Yes.
Cool. And I was telling you, I lived in Europe for
Yes,
3 years.
in
so-
Germany.
Yeah. So how was the experience in Europe? How'd you like that? And
Well, you know, here, Charles, I lived in Great Britain. You know, Brexit. You know, it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
Europe
that's right.
anymore.
That's
It
right.
was great. I mean, I loved living. My ancestry, I have family in the UK, and so it was wonderful. I had a wonderful time, and I loved going over to Europe and going to France and all sorts of places, and that was great. I love it there.
and how long were you in California?
I lived in Los Angeles. I mean, I grew up there, of course, but in Los Angeles, I lived there for 10 years, a decade. I did the 80s in LA.
And then you went to New York, and where was because I think you said before this interview that you did a little bit of acting or was writing.
Oh, no, I went to New York to study acting, but
Okay.
before that, I had gone to the junior college that was right by our house, actually has put out a large percentage of professional actors, including David Strathairn and David Ogden Stiers, and someone named Robin Williams, whom I knew
Wow.
there. And I did scene study with him and took Shakespeare classes and actually knew him down in Los Angeles as well. And kind of, kept in touch with him throughout his life, so.
And what was he like?
Oh gosh, such a nice man. Such a sweet, sweet soul, and very funny. I mean, very funny. One thing that I always tell about Robin is when he was talking to women, he would talk very softly. So you'd have to sort of lean into him. Not a dumb man, Robin. And then when he'd talk to men, he'd talk to them in normal voice.
Oh, really?
He just wanted the women to lean in and have their heads on his chest. So
Smart guy,
Yeah,
smart guy.
smart guy. Yeah. So.
Did you ever expect for him to be that big?
Oh, I wasn't.
Or did he expect? to
No,
be
I
that
don't
big?
think he suspected he was ever going to be that big.
Okay.
But I don't think we were surprised. But it's amazing when you know somebody and you just know them, and all of a sudden they're a household name, and that's exactly what it was. 2 years he was on the cover of Time magazine from when I first met him.
Great.
Yeah.
So you are an experienced speaker. How did you hear about Toastmasters the first time? And kind of walk us through that experience.
I had gotten laid off at the end of 2008. It was terrible. Yeah.
Inside joke.
Yeah, and was sort of rehoning and recrafting my skill set so I wouldn't be in that first group to be laid off in the company. And one of the things I did was took a elevator speech clinic at Willow Creek that was taught by Phyllis Harmon, who is here
Phyllis
this
is
evening.
here, yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
know. And she invited me to go to the Toastmasters club that she was forming in downtown Hillsboro with a few other people, Bob Rollinger, and I went there that Friday, and I never left. I was actually the 20th member. I became the last member to help them charter, thanks to Phyllis, and I have really never left. So it's been great, and I took to it like duck to water. Wonderful. It brought together my acting and my writing that I used to do, and honed it and crafted it so it was able to go forward and be a stronger skill for me, and I wouldn't be so nervous when you talk, in public.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And I think you told me that you had experience in doing like TV and stuff like that too, right?
Yes.
I mean, so this is very easy for you, right? You feel comfortable doing this?
I'm okay. Yes.
Okay.
It's been a few
you look
years.
like you're doing all
Oh,
right. to
thank
me.
you. Thank you. No, I used to do theater, and I used to do commercials, and I think I've done about 18 commercials. I did soap operas.
Really?
Yeah.
Soap operas too?
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
All right,
But I'm not a household name, so I obviously wasn't that good at it.
Well, good. Nice to have you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you've spoken on the international level as far as competitions.
Yes.
So tell us how was the process for you on that, and how did you feel, and maybe share some of your speeches with us.
You know, I love competing. I never knew I'm not into sports per se. I played tennis, but I've never been that competitive, even though I chose to be in the entertainment industry. And I did a speech for the international speech on 9/11. I'd lived in New York for it, and it was sort of a healing process for me because it was different. My experience with going through the Twin Towers being hit is different than probably most people because I heard it and saw it and smelled it and all that. And I had some post-traumatic stress syndrome from it. And so doing this speech, I had this one line that always this one thing kind of was around my head for years that was, anyone who was there remembers how beautiful the sky was. It was such a incongruous thing. And so from that one line, I sort of crafted this speech, and I got to do it on 3 different levels up from the club. And then did it in downtown Portland for the world's largest Toastmasters meeting 3 years ago in Pioneer Square. So that was great, and it was very healing and cathartic for me. I like doing the humorous as well, though, so that's because that's my sort of my natural tendency.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you to come, because I heard one of the speeches on your family tree, I think it was.
Yes, well.
Share that.
My family is, we have lots of cousins and aunts and uncles and always have, and we go back, I know, way back. And it was confusing to me how we were related. My father would say, well, she's your first cousin once removed. I'm her, second cousin. And finally it came together for me, and I did that for the club. It was sort of a fun thing to do because I got to poke fun at all my family members and their quirky behavior. And I sort of was winging it a little, and I think I made some funny things that I didn't mean to insinuate, but if it's funny, I guess. Hopefully they won't see this. No.
Right. So Toastmasters has changed your life, you feel like?
Absolutely.
In what way?
I am more able to speak extemporaneously. I don't say and as quite as much. And I have honed my leadership skills, how to take and receive feedback. I mean, that's the thing about Toastmasters. It's not just learning how to speak in public, it's leadership skills. It's mentoring. It's, like I said, taking and receiving of feedback. And if you're in the leadership team, I'm a past president, I'm the VPE now, and putting the meetings together is always a challenge, and keeping people other than yourself on track. And for me, one of the most rewarding things is to see people grow from it. We have one member she came in 2 years ago and could hardly say her name, and now she's the first to volunteer for table topics, and that's just great. So I think anybody, no matter what level you come in at, you can grow from it and find something there. And it to me, I recently got asked to co-facilitate a public speaking class for my work, and that's really wonderful.
Great.
So, yeah.
So obviously you would, suggest for others to...
Oh, absolutely, wholeheartedly. I don't know, and I'm always suggesting to people, and when I travel, it's fun. I went to visit friends on the East Coast, and I went to a meeting in New York, and that was fun to go, and I was a little nervous there to go into, downtown New York, or midtown New York, and go to one, but it's lots of fun, and they all have the same structure. That's what I love about what Toastmasters is, the structure and then the fun and the growing that you have from it.
Great.
Yeah.
So kind of wrapping up here, how do we stay in contact with you, and tell us about your club that you belong to?
I am in downtown Lunchbunch. I'm a member of downtown Lunchbunch. We meet on Fridays at noon at the Wykert Realty on Main. We're just a block away from the Washington County Courthouse, City of Hillsborough Plaza. And you can find us on that little thing called Facebook. We have our own page, Downtown Lunchbunch, and we're pretty good. We have our VP of Public Relations is very good. Matt is very good about posting all the time. So we have current information. Love to have anybody visit. You visited a number of times. You should join.
Yeah, I love it. I like your
Yes,
club.
we have a lot of fun. Yeah, we have a great group.
Great. So thank you for coming
Thank you,
to the
Charles.
show.
Thank you so much.
So you hear Lynne's story and how it changed her life and how it's changing others' lives, her experience here with Toastmasters. We thank you for watching the show. Please watch again. Thank you very much.
I remember the first speech I ever gave at Toastmasters. Afterwards, I sat down and I really didn't know how well I'd done. It was a pretty nervous experience for me. I mean, did I remember my gestures? Did I speak clearly? Did I make good eye contact? Well, all my questions were answered when another member of the club gave me my first evaluation.
This was great. Can I come back next week?
As we work to create and strengthen this global vision, this universal partnership, we may experience some challenges along the way. Growing pains, if you will. Struggles. Should we let this stop us? Do we give up when things get tough? To overcome the challenges we face, we need to focus on one thing. I had a great time at my first Toastmasters meeting. I had no idea it would actually be fun. I had some bad experiences in the past delivering speeches. Sometimes I just didn't practice, and others I would just get so nervous in front of the crowd. Now, the truth is we are stronger when we work together. This is going to be our path to success and is what will drive us to the next level. When that happens, we will have reached our goals.
What a great speaker. My presentation last time was awful. What do you think?
Well, have you ever heard of Toastmasters?
Toastmasters is really the best kept secret for self-development.
If I were to say one thing about Toastmasters, it would have to be personal growth.
I've gained so much self-confidence and belief in myself after being a part of Toastmasters.
As we all know, great leaders have excellent communication skills. I feel that I have the confidence now to become a great speaker.
I always admired people that could stand up and talk about any topic.
Even on the spot. Well, now I'm one of those people who can do it comfortably.
The progress I have seen in myself has even been noticed by my friends and my coworkers.
But the best part was when my manager saw how much improvement I had made, and he gave me the job I had been wanting for 2 years.
All I have to say is thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.